Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura, Hari Bol. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhams Parivrajacharya Stotra Shat Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Anant Koti Vaishnavind Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद जद्वैत गदाधर शिवसादि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय, मायापुर धाम की जय, जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय, गंगा माई की जय, यमुना माई की जय, तुलसी देवी की जय, समेत भक्तवृंद की जय। निताई गौ प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Adi Lila, chapter 3, verse number 24. Utse deyor ime lokana puryam karma chedaham sankarasya chakartasyam upahanyam ima prajaha. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. If I did not show the proper principles of religion, all these worlds would fall into ruin. I would be the cause of unwanted population and would spoil all these living beings. Text 25. Yad yad acharati shreshthas tad tad evetaro janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokas tad anuvartate. Translation. Whatever actions a great man performs, common people follow, and whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. Text 26. Yugadhama pravartana haya amsha haite amavina anyanare vraja premadite. Translation. My plenary portions can establish the principles of religion for each age. No one but me, however, can bestow the kind of loving service performed by the residents of Vraja. Text 27. Santva avatara bhava pankaja nabhasya sarvato bhadra Krishnad anya kovalatasva api premado bhavati. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. There may be many all-auspicious incarnations of the personality of Godhead, but who, other than Lord Sri Krishna, can bestow love of God upon the surrendered souls? Purport. This quotation from the writings of Bilva Mangala Thakur is found in the Laghu Bhagavatamrita 1.5.37. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Can I please request you to unshare the screen? Thank you. So from these verses, we can see right from verse number 24, how, I was thinking of one phrase that we've heard: actions speak louder than words, showing by example. Many times, some devotees ask me that, my child is not listening to me, is not, following Krishna consciousness, etc. So what should I do? The first thing that I can think of that Srila Prabhupada says is set a good example. So if we are good examples for our children, then, it's possible that the children will take up Krishna consciousness. So here in this verse 24, we can see how showing by example is very important. Whereas in verse 25, we heard that, the teacher, the leader, the guru, they should be exemplary in their behavior. Because these verses are from the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna tells Arjuna that if he himself did not follow dharma, then how will the world follow it? So he also was setting an example. And one thing that comes to my mind is that Krishna talks about accepting as bona fide spiritual master. And to, show it by example, he accepts a bona fide spiritual master also. So he's setting an example, and those who have faith in their spiritual master, then they follow the instructions. There are three kinds of disciples. Topmost is one who follows instructions even before receiving them, because they know the mood of the spiritual master. They know what does the spiritual master expect from them, so they follow it. Then the next category is when the spiritual master gives the instructions, then the disciple follows. So that is also good. But then there is this last category where the spiritual master gives instructions and the disciple still does not follow it, which is really sad. So here we see that the spiritual master is exemplary. He's a direct representative of Krishna. So we need to put that full firm faith in their instructions and follow them. Now in verse 26, we saw that the position of Krishna is again emphasized. Now we've heard in different scriptures that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada has explained so nicely, especially in Brahma Samhita, the very first verse says, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha, that he is Parama Ishvara, he is the Ishvara of all, he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And of course, in Bhagavatam also, Ete Chamsa Kalapamsa, Krishna is tu Bhagwan Swayam. Krishna, you yourself are the Supreme Lord. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna himself declares, I am the Supreme Lord. I am the Lord of all demigods, of all planets, everybody. I am the Supreme Lord. So here in this verse 26 also we see that Krishna's supreme position is being talked about. And it says, only Krishna can bestow loving service. Only Krishna. So the other plenary incarnations and all, yes, they are there, to re-establish religion, etc. But it is only Krishna who can bestow loving service to the devotee. Now in verse 27, again, it is said that only Krishna can bestow love for him. Now the question arises, to whom? Is it to just anybody, like in the layman language we say to just Tom, Dick and Harry? No, it's I hope there's no Tom, Dick and Harry on Zoom call right now. I didn't mean that, but this is what even Prabhupada says. It's not just for everybody. Who does Krishna bestow his love for him? It is only those who are surrendered unto him. Right? In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, Krishna demands Sarva dharman parityagya. You have to abandon, not give up. Give up is by the way. Abandon. Abandon means very firmly just do not, follow any religion. Just surrender unto Krishna. He orders it. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, he didn't order. He just, out of love and compassion, that doesn't mean Krishna didn't have love and compassion. He had love and compassion. That's why he gave us Bhagavad Gita, so we can use it as our owner's manual to lead this human form of life. But in 18th chapter, he very clearly told Arjuna, surrender. Surrender is a very heavy word, and it is not so easy. We are so used to, we are so conditioned to lead a life of being the controller and being the master, and wanting everything in our hands. Everybody should behave the way we want them to. Everybody should talk the way we want them to. So we are full of those expectations and desires, and we want that. So that conditioning is there, and because of that conditioning, it's very difficult to surrender. And what exactly does surrender mean? It means following the instructions of Krishna, that's all. And in Bhagavad Gita, he's giving us guidance. But if we are not sincere and serious, then we will take the bhakti very casually. Srila Prabhupada says bhakti is not casual. It's a very serious business. We should not do bhakti by the way. When we have time, whenever it's convenient. No, it's not by the way. It is a very serious business. Why? Because after so many lifetimes, we have got Krishna consciousness. After so many lifetimes, we have a human form. And besides having a human form, we also have access to Bhagavad Gita as it is. So why let this opportunity go waste? Now, in this last verse that we were reading in the purport, Srila Prabhupada talks about Bilva Mangala Thakur. Excuse me. I'm quite sure all of us have heard about Bilva Mangala Thakur. He was, when we hear these pastimes, these stories, most of the time, we just keep it as stories. We forget to understand the moral behind the story. What is it that Krishna is trying to teach us from this? So let's hear about Bilva Mangala Thakur and then meditate upon what do we learn from his life. Now, Bilva Mangala Thakur, he was from a Brahmin family in South India. And fortunately, he had a spiritual master, and her name was Chintamani. So Chintamani actually was a society girl, and but still her consciousness was totally spiritual. She was, even though by profession, she was not very well respected, but talk of her consciousness, she was, I remember hearing a story where there was a Brahmana who was living in an apartment. Opposite side in the other apartment was a society girl living. And this Brahmana was very well versed in scriptures, and he used to recite Bhagavad Gita every day. But then he would sit in his balcony and he would observe what's happening in that society girl's balcony, what's happening. So he had a pot of stones on one side. Excuse me. And on the other side, he had an empty pot. So every time he would see a client come to that society girl's house, he would take a stone and put it in the empty pot. Like that, he would count how many clients she had in one day. That was his consciousness. Whereas the society girl was busy with her profession, but she would see that this Brahmana used to read Bhagavad Gita. I mean, he's sitting in the balcony reading Bhagavad Gita and putting stones from one to the other, one part to the other. And here her consciousness is, excuse me, how fortunate is this Brahmana? Look at me. I'm involved in such a degraded profession, and he's so fortunate he's reading Bhagavad Gita. I wish I could also get an opportunity to read Bhagavad Gita. See the state of consciousness. Reading Bhagavad Gita, but thinking of something else. She's doing something else, and she's thinking about Bhagavad Gita. So here this Bilva Mangala Thakur was attracted to this society girl called Chintamani. And he became so attached to her that he completely lost his spiritual consciousness. He was a Brahmana. And so he started visiting her regularly. It so happened one day, his father passed away. And so he went to the funeral, and straight from the funeral, he went to see Chintamani. And there was heavy thunderstorm. And in that thunderstorm, it didn't bother him at all. You know, when there's a thunderstorm, when we get a warning, weather warning that today there's going to be, very heavy rains or flooding or whatever, we don't leave the house. We just stay at home because we want to be safe. But it didn't matter to him. He went in that thunderstorm. He had to cross the river, and there was a dead body floating. He caught hold on to the dead body to swim across the river because that deep burning desire to meet Chintamani was there. He wanted to see her. And it is said that when he reached her house, excuse me, when he reached the house, the door was locked, but there was a huge wall that he had to climb, and he could not. So he saw a snake hanging from that wall, and he thought that's a rope. So he held on to the snake and he climbed up and he jumped and he went and knocked on the door. Chintamani was shocked. You've come in this thunderstorm? Look at your condition. And he said, but I had to see you. I cannot live without you. And then she only said one thing to him, that, you've taken so much trouble just to come to see me, burning with desire. You're soaking wet. You are exhausted. If only, she said, if only you were so attached to Krishna rather than this bag of flesh and bones that I am. Why not attach yourself to the most blissful Govinda? You'll get complete satisfaction and happiness. And that's when he realized that he's been doing something very wrong. And immediately he turned around and he left Chintamani's house. This is what the spiritual master does, gives the right instruction, guides the disciple. Now, Chintamani didn't think that she was the spiritual master of Bilva Mangala Thakur, but because of her state of consciousness, she was able to guide him, and he accepted that. So then he started going towards Vrindavan. When he went to Vrindavan, he saw that there was a couple, a Brahmana and his wife, and he got attracted to the wife. So he asked, because you see, whatever actions we perform, that affects our consciousness. And then it becomes very difficult to give up that habit. So he was habituated to being attracted to a beautiful lady. So here he got attracted to Brahmana's wife, and he asked the Brahmana, can I please enjoy with your wife? And so the Brahmana said, okay. And then the wife, beautiful wife, yes, I'm shocked. I guess Brahmanas are very merciful, but they shouldn't be in this way. But so the wife, she was a devoted wife, so she followed the instructions of her husband and she went to Bilva Mangala Thakur. And at that time, Bilva Mangala Thakur felt really, really remorseful. He said, I am so ashamed of myself. How can I even think of something like this? So he asked Brahmana's wife, ladies, they wear these hairpins, in their hair. So he asked for that hairpin. And she didn't understand what is he going to do. So she gave the hairpin to Bilva Mangala Thakur. And Bilva Mangala Thakur took that hairpin and he pierced his eyes and blinded himself. He said, of what use are these eyes that are getting attracted to material bodies? So he became blind. And after that, he, with determination, great determination, he decided that I will not get distracted from Krishna consciousness. It is said that he got initiated by Somagiri and he got a name Lila Shuka. That was his name. And when after initiation, because of his determination, even Krishna talks about this in Bhagavad Gita, Dhrida that we should follow bhakti with full determination, be very firm on this path. So here he, after initiation, he, dedicated his life for Krishna bhakti. And in ecstasy, he would start singing about Krishna, dancing, and he would be totally involved in Krishna bhakti 24/7. And it is said that Bilva Mangala Thakur would not make an effort to go look for food, because you see, it's a body needs to be nourished also. So, but he would not care about it. He would just be sitting under a tree and chanting and singing the glories of Krishna. And guess what? Krishna would personally come to him with prasadam. He would come to him and give not only prasadam, but also sit and play his flute for him. Can you imagine? One time I had heard, I don't know if it's true or not, but I had heard that when a devotee is purified, then he or she can hear the flute of Krishna. I was like, wow, that is what a beautiful goal to achieve. So here, Krishna would personally come, that little cowherd boy would come and he would sit and play the flute, and Bilva Mangala would be totally captivated. And he would become mad with desire to meet Krishna. And not only that, he became mad with a desire to hold Krishna. He wanted to catch Krishna. He wanted to touch Krishna. But Krishna would run away. So then Bilva Mangala Thakur said, well, you can run away from my hand, but you cannot run away from my heart. There is no way you can run away from my heart. That was the level of surrender of Bilva Mangala Thakur. Absolutely top class. So now the question arises, how do we surrender? Because surrender is a very heavy word. Excuse me, most people run away. Imagine the boy and the girl have just got married, and the husband says to the wife, you got to surrender to me. What do you think will happen? Probably, I'm just thinking, probably we'll open the door and go away and say, happy married life to you. I'm on my way. You're on my way. Surrender? Why should I surrender? I'm an individual person. I have my own desires. I have my own life. Why would I surrender to you? Right? But in Vedic days, that is what was followed, that the wife follows her husband. She serves her husband. You see? So that surrender word is very, very heavy. We are so conditioned to leading our lives the way we want to do what we like to do, to eat what we want to do, to see what we want to see. But it becomes, because of in that consciousness, it becomes very difficult to surrender to anybody. Where is the question of surrendering to Krishna? But Srila Prabhupada has taught us a simple process. Simple way to surrender to Krishna is just chant. When we chant attentively, we are praying to Krishna to please engage us in his service. And that is surrender. Right? Following the instructions of the spiritual master and Krishna, that is surrender. Chant attentively, follow 4 regulative principles strictly, serve, preach, eat only Krishna Prasadam, read Srila Prabhupada's books, observe Ekadashi. This whole process, simple package is given to us so that we can learn to surrender to Krishna. You see, I was listening to one lecture where the importance of Harinam was given, the importance of Krishna's compassion was given. It's given in Hari Bhakti Vilas that, I just talked about following Ekadashi, that how important it is to observe Ekadashi. Of course, there are different levels of observing Ekadashi. It could be, if the health is good and if it's possible, then all Ekadashis can be done nirjala, which means not even drinking a drop of water. And then the next level would be just drink water. The next level would be just eat fruits. Then the next level would be just eat once a day, Ekadashi Prasadam. And then the last one would be, eat Ekadashi Prasadam throughout the day, but there's a big but not forget to chant as many rounds as possible on that day and to read Srila Prabhupada's books. In other words, engage ourselves in Krishna conscious activities, especially on Ekadashi. So it is said that, excuse me, that Prahlad Maharaj, how many of you know the previous life of Prahlad Maharaj? No, I also heard it for the first time. So in the previous life, Prahlad Maharaj, his name was Vasudev. And guess what? He was attached to a society girl. Prahlad Maharaj, in his previous life, was attached to a prostitute. He was into society girl, drinking wine, etc., breaking all regulative principles, did not study the scriptures, nothing at all. But then it so happened on one day, he had a fight with the society girl. They were quarreling. And because they were so much into fighting with each other, they were so upset with each other that they forgot to even eat or drink, and they were fighting all night, and they even forgot to sleep. It's just they were so involved in fighting. And guess what? That day was Ekadashi. So they didn't eat, they didn't drink, and they did not sleep. And in next life, Vasudev became Prahlad Maharaj. I was like, wow. Just observing one Ekadashi, Nirjal Ekadashi, and staying awake all night, this is what he got. So thanks to Srila Prabhupada, he has given us this process in which he has even included Ekadashi. Ekadashi is like, I have heard the story about how, I don't know, I think I related this story on this Harrisburg lectures where Demon Mura, right? Did I talk about this? No, okay. So there was this Demon Mura, and very envious of Krishna. And there was a fight between this Demon Mura and Lord Vishnu, and they fought for a very long time. And then all of a sudden, Lord Vishnu started running away from Mura. And Mura thought, he's afraid of me. And so he's running away from the battle. He doesn't want to face me because I'm so strong and powerful. So Lord Vishnu, he had his own plan. So he ran and he went into a dark cave. He went into a dark cave and he lay down, pretending he was very tired from all this fighting that was going on. And so while Lord Vishnu was resting, the demon thought, oh, this is a very good opportunity for me to kill him. So he tried with a weapon to kill Vishnu. And at that time, from the body of Lord Vishnu came out a beautiful lady. And she had so many weapons in her hand, and she was so effulgent, and she killed demon Mura. So at that time, Lord Vishnu woke up. That was his plan. He woke up and he said, oh, who killed this demon? I've been fighting with him for such a long time and I wasn't able to kill. So this beautiful lady said, oh, by your mercy, I was able to kill him. He said, I am so grateful to you that you helped me in killing this demon. You can ask any benediction that you want. So she said, well, first of all, if you can give me a name, I have come from you. I'm your energy. I've appeared from your body. So he said, since you have appeared on the 11th day, so I will name you Ekadashi. Eka means 1, Dashi means 10. 10 plus 1 is 11. So your name from now on is Ekadashi. Now, what benediction do you want? So she said, the people, especially in Kali Yuga, are very degraded. They are committing so many sinful activities, and I want to give them an opportunity to liberate themselves. So if you can give me a benediction that on my day, on Ekadashi, that I can put all the sins of the world in grains and beans. All the sins of the world in grains and beans. So if people do not eat grains and beans, they can stay away from sinful activities. They can avoid sin, so that they get an opportunity not only to stay away from all that sins, but also remember you and chant your glories. And Lord Vishnu says Tathastu. Yes, that benediction. So Ekadashi is very, very, very important. It's very sinful to eat grains and beans on Ekadashi day. Guess what? Scientifically also it's proved that we need to rest our digestive system once at least in a fortnight. I had heard at least once a week, so that there is, because it's very hard to digest grains and beans. So if the digestive system gets rest once a week or once in 2 weeks, then it starts working efficiently. So here Krishna, he is really very, very smart. He knows how this body works, and based on that, he gives us different instructions to follow. So following Ekadashi is very, very important. It is said in the scriptures that right from the age of 5, even the children should start observing Ekadashi. Very, very important, because till the age of 5, they don't get any sinful reactions for eating grains and beans. But after 5, yes, they definitely have to face reactions, you see. And it's because of Srila Prabhupada that we have this knowledge. I didn't know about Ekadashi. I had no idea about chanting the holy names, So it is, this process helps us to understand what is the purpose of human form of life, how to break this cycle of birth and death, how to go to a place which is, where there is permanent happiness, like Vaikuntha. Kuntha means anxiety. Vaikuntha means no anxiety at all, no stress, no need to, hold your hands on your head and start worrying, oh, this stress and that stress, and this material world is full of stress, you see. So Srila Prabhupada also stressed, But he stressed on the importance of chanting the holy name and chanting attentively, very, very important. He said, 99% of our progress in spiritual life depends on attentive chanting. So we should take it very seriously, keep good association, read regularly. Srila Prabhupada has taken so much trouble to translate all these books. For what? Not to keep them on the shelf and let them collect dust, but to read them, to, make our sadhana strong, because Maya is very strong. Maya can pull us just in a split second, can pull us down, even a little bit of carelessness, and then we get into the clutches of Maya, you see. And Krishna consciousness is our only hope. Just as we see that Arjuna, he received the mercy of Krishna, right? So we can also strive to receive mercy of Krishna. All we need to do is just surrender unto Krishna. So this, we talked a lot about Bilva Mangala Thakur, because in the purport, Srila Prabhupada talks about, Rupa Goswami mentioning in Laghu Bhagavatamrita about Bilva Mangala Thakur, about his prayers and about his life. So it's what we learn from Bilva Mangala Thakur is surrender. And surrender means following the instructions of Guru and Krishna. Is very, very simple. When we do that, then we can be sure that we are safe on our spiritual path. So I'll read the last verse for today, 27. There may be many all auspicious incarnations of the personality of Godhead, but who other than Lord Sri Krishna can bestow love of God upon the surrendered souls? Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for such a wonderful class, Mother. A really amazing class, very powerful, and such nice points covered in these 3 to 4 verses. Amazing pastimes, amazing points, definitely a food for thought for me to really meditate on, and especially the pastime of Bilva Mangala Thakur. I've always liked hearing that pastime because it's a reminder how these eyes is one of our worst enemies, including the mind and the ear, but the eyes is a pain. It can, it gets attracted to the wrong things. So that's a very nice reminder. So thank you so much, Mother, for actually bringing that pastime up. And I didn't even know about Prahlad Maharaj pastime. That was a nice one from his previous life. And there's another one that you mentioned about the Brahmanas wife. I was like, Hare Krishna, I would have punched that. That was really nice to hear all that. Amazing points, Mother. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Would like to ask devotees, do you have any questions, any clarification? Please do raise your hand, or I will call upon you. Mother, I have a question, and you mentioned surrender. The reason we find it difficult to surrender is because we're not able to follow instructions. And sometimes I come across situations where we think that I know better than the instruction that's given to me. And then the mind has a very difficult time accepting the instruction. The first thing the mind does is it raises the defensive mechanism wall. So in dealing in such situations, Mother, how can we help withdraw the defense wall and help to receive the instructions?
Yes, it's also sometimes it's the false ego, that comes in the way. And, it's by practice. We need to practice, make a conscious effort. Every time we catch ourselves becoming defensive, or we catch ourselves that I know it all, I don't need to hear from anybody else, need to catch ourselves and control the mind. Krishna says constant practice is required. and a conscious effort needs to be taken. It's not going to happen automatically. It's not magic. It's not a switch you turn on and then you change your consciousness. It's a gradual process. So we need to be conscious of that and catch ourselves. And what I have noticed is keeping good association helps a lot, because when we have good association, we learn from them. We see that, oh, when I am trying to give some knowledge, this devotee is accepting it. Even though this devotee knows more than I do, is more experienced, is more knowledgeable, has been practicing bhakti yoga for many more years than I do, but still is open to hear what I have to say, is accepting. I remember hearing this story where the sage was talking about Ramayan. He was talking about telling the whole story of Ramayan on a daily basis. And here, this person, he comes for the first time and he sits right in front, to hear the Ramayan. And every time the sage would say, okay, Ram did this and Sita did this or whatever, this person would say, I know, I know, I know, I know. And he kept saying for every sentence, I know, I know. So then after the first day of pravachan, the sage called him and said, if you already know, what are you doing here? You already know. So you don't need to sit here and tell me, I know, I know. That is what we call our habit. You see, when we are in a conversation, even with devotees, if they are relating something, we're like, I know, I know. Okay, I know, but there's no harm in hearing it again. So it's a constant practice. So when we associate with such devotees who are so calm and peaceful and sober and humble, then that rubs off on us. And then gradually we realize, I really don't know anything. You see? So it's just a matter of practice. And Srila Prabhupada says, someone asked him that I'm not enthusiastic at all. I'm not enthusiastic about Krishna consciousness. What should I do? What do you think? Prabhupada said, pretend to be enthusiastic, and then gradually you will become enthusiastic. So we can also pretend I don't know, and then hopefully we'll come to a stage where we will actually mean it. I hope that helps.
Absolutely, Mother. I actually like the point about this pastime that he talked about, the devotee sitting in the Ramayan Katha when he already knows, but he wants to know. Because I think sometimes people do that to show how much they know.
Yes.
Instead of being humble and receiving. As you're mentioning it, Mother, I was remembering about a comment that something that my dad used to always tell me when I was young, better to act stupid so you can receive more knowledge than act smart, then nothing's going to get into your head. Because That's the defense mechanism. If you think that you know so much, then nothing is going to go inside. If you act like you don't know, that's when the mind is going to be more receptive. So I was remembering that as you're mentioning this pastime with this devotee, but sitting in the Ram Katha class. Thank you so much, Mother. Any questions from devotees? Any thoughts that's coming to your mind? Any reflection? And while they're thinking, Mother, I have another question. And you talked about the guru-disciple relationship. Of course, the first class one is a disciple that knows the spiritual master even before getting that instruction. What is the situation, Mother, when the disciple is doing different from what the spiritual master's behavior? And we come across that situation many times, and I think it reflects to the point that you're mentioning, someone sitting in class, they know, but they want to sit there just to show how much they know. And we know, and sometimes, that is not the mood of the spiritual master. I was remembering many years ago in Gitanagari, I think it was, I don't know which sannyasi was giving class, but my spiritual master was in the audience listening to his god brother, and he was teaching us the example that, even though he's my god brother, but I'm sitting in his class, and he was taking notes, actually. He was taking notes. But sometimes, Mother, we in this age of Kali Yuga, we think, since I know more, I have to show how much I know, which is not the guru's mood. So how do we deal in that? What do we do, Mataji? How do we deal that situation? Because it affects the others also thinking that that's the right behavior, but it's not.
Yes, if you have noticed over the years that even devotees, they choose whose lecture to listen to, which is a very wrong habit. Because Krishna Katha is Krishna Katha, it doesn't matter who is speaking. I remember in Mumbai, this is many years ago. I don't remember this devotee's name right now, but he was giving a class and there were hardly any devotees sitting there. And that is when he mentioned that it is not that we gather and hear the class of only those devotees who are popular or who are very humorous or who have very good sense of humor or who tell a lot of stories. No, Krishna Katha is Krishna Katha. It doesn't matter who is speaking. So that was a very strong point that I learned in those days. So this is not a good state of consciousness, where so the point that you made of your spiritual master sitting in audience and making notes is exemplary. We need to learn from that. It is not the giving of classes, talking about like today's class or like giving about Bhagavatam class or Bhagavad Gita class. It is not a competition. It's not a competition who speaks better, whose lecture was more interesting. No, we are concentrating on the subject matter. What is it that Krishna is trying to tell us, whether it is Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, or Chaitanya Charitamrita? What are we learning from this? So again, it boils down to good association. When we associate with advanced devotees, like you watched your spiritual master sit in the audience and take notes, we learn from that. And then we try to put it into practice in our lives. So that is how, it should be done. It's just everything depends on association. If we have good association, and guess what? Srila Prabhupada says, when you open my books, you associate with me. When we are reading his books, Srila Prabhupada is talking to us. We are hearing him. That is perfect association. So that's why we should read Prabhupada books every day. I hope that helps.
Yes, Mother. Everything is by association. That it makes, I think the more we associate and we read, the more it makes us more humble, to make us know how much we really don't know. So that was a nice point, Mother. Thank you so much. Any other points from devotees? Any other questions, thoughts? Devotees seem to be a little quiet this morning. I hope we were all listening. Yes, Parikshit, my husband just jumped right in.
Please accept my humble obeisances, all
Please
Christ.
accept mine.
I don't have a question, just a comment that the class was so nice to listen to.
Thank you, Prabhupada.
So many points that were given and so many pastimes, especially with Mangala Thakur and how his mind got changed by Chintamani. And this stories, when we hear, I know sometimes we heard it before, talking about I know, right? But we heard it before, but what makes it so nice is hearing it again in the context of what's being preached, It's like, yeah, you have a gold earring, for example. This is the thought coming to me. The gold earring. The woman has a gold earring, and she wears that earring, but she wears it with maybe a green sari. Next time she wears it with a blue sari. The gold is the same earring, but the whole atmosphere, the whole dress, how it comes across, because they are different color, clothes, and so on with the same gold earring. It brings it gives a certain flavor that is very, 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 very easy to appreciate. And that's why the pastimes can be repeated and repeated, but the context in which they come through makes it so wonderful. So I would never say I know, because I know that it's going to be in a certain flavor. Mhm. Many times we have spiritual masters talk, and then they talk about a certain pastime, and the words that they choose to describe the same pastime makes it so wonderful, even though the same pastime that we've heard before. And so the flavor always is different, and that's what makes it so interesting. So thank you for your lecture, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. That was a very valid point, and it made so much sense, putting that example, in place. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Sorry, Shri Prabhupada and Gurudev. Thank you.
That was a nice point too. Very, yeah. Sometimes we need the practical, daily, everyday examples to make us realize that we actually do it, but because it's become such a routine or like a monotonous action that we forget that, that's a lesson behind it until someone brings it up and shares with us. So thank you for that example. Any other questions?
Sometimes what happens when devotees, they hear these pastimes, they get so involved in the, logic of it, like, what time was Bhagavad Gita spoken? How long did it take to speak the Bhagavad Gita, etc., etc.? How about the instruction of the Bhagavad Gita? What is in Bhagavad Gita? You see, instead of thinking of what is it called, the details.
Technicalities.
Huh?
Technicalities.
Technicalities, exactly. Technicalities. Why worry about the technicalities? Worry about the message. So these pastimes also worry about what we learn from these pastimes. So
that was a perfect example, Mother, because sometimes I do run into that situation. It's, if we get so caught up in the technicalities, the intellect, the everything, that we forget the underlying message to really read between the lines, as they say. So I think that is really very important. And sometimes it's so deep and so subtle that we think that being caught up in the technicalities makes us look smarter. I've come across that situation because I'm so bad in technicalities, Mother. I'm like zero. You can ask my husband. I'm like very bad in technicalities.
You don't need them. You don't
so
need
again,
them.
I don't, yeah, because, and the thing is, my mind is such a rascal, it doesn't even take the technicalities. I'm like, really? But yes, and so in fact, whenever I hear, I feel stupid because I don't know any technicalities. I feel so like, this girl knows nothing, kind of a thing, this woman.
You can always move the conversation to the moral of it.
Yeah, I should do, yes, because sometimes I tend to pull myself, okay, this is too high level for me. I'm going to go to the other group and go down ground level. Because I that's just one of my weakness, that I don't quite, somehow my mind that doesn't get, that is not able to process technicalities. I think that's what it is. But yeah, so that's so, but I was appreciating the point that I think we have to really go deeper into the lesson, as you said, Mother, the moral, of the topic. Any other questions from devotees? Any reflections, sharing, realization from this amazing class, such a beautiful class about surrender, guru-disciple relationship,
Everybody is quiet. Maybe they've fallen asleep hearing the lecture.
I hope
they're
not.
awake.
I know I'm awake.
This is so much fun.
It is so much fun.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But it's such a nice class, Mother, such a beautiful class, amazing points. And the thing is that, the points you mentioned, Mother, and actually what was really powerful, the first verse you read was really powerful, where Lord Chaitanya says that, I'm trying to remember, that really woke me up, something about pious, I'm gonna, that was really powerful, yeah, verse 24, he says, I would be the cause of unwanted population and would spoil all living beings if there was no proper principles of religion. I was like, Jay, wow, that's pretty deep. For him to say that he came to this to give the proper what's the word proper principles of religion, and if not, there would be ruin and I would be the cause. So even the Lord is taking himself to be the cause. That's pretty deep, Mother.
Yes. He knows we people in Kali Yuga, we need deep things, for us to wake us up.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, to put himself. Go ahead, Nitya Gopal.
Hare Krishna, such a wonderful discussion. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for wonderful class, Mataji. Yeah, as Parikshit Prabhu said, below Mangal Thakur's example is such a wonderful to always, we learn so much from it. Yeah, and as Mataji was mentioning, Lord comes as, I was thinking how Lord gives the opportunity. Sometimes he comes as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, sometimes Lord Ram, sometimes as Krishna, Balram. He comes and gives so many opportunities to, associate with us. So I was just thinking on that, merciful Lord's, his presence and his mercy to coming and giving us. So I was just thinking on that thought, Mataji. Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you for a very valid point. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nitya. A very, very nice point. Mother, there's a question from Prema Manjari Mataji. She says, Hare Krishna, Mother. Mataji, very beautiful class. I have a question. How can we take maximum advantage of the association we are receiving? Very deep.
Yes. The best way is to do service. So when we get first of all, we have to look for good association. It's not going to fall in our laps. We have to make that effort to look for good association of advanced devotees. And then when we do get the opportunity, the best way to take advantage is to serve them. Because when we serve them, we are opening our hearts to take that association. We are opening up our hearts to hear from them, to learn from them. So serving them is one of the best ways, because that way it'll make us become humble, more humble. You see, in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, Srila Prabhupada explains the definition of humility. He says, one should not be anxious to get the satisfaction of being honored by others. So that anxiety is not there to get respect. Instead, anxiety is to give respect, right? Anxiety is not to get satisfaction of being respected, but anxiety is to give respect to those advanced devotees. So service is the best way, because when the advanced devotee is pleased with the service, not that they are hankering for it, but when they are pleased, then they are ready to open their hearts to give association.
Mother, that point of service is amazing. I really like that realization. That was a very nice question too, Prema Manjari Mataji, and I'm sure many of us, all of us here benefited from that question, that service is the best way to get advantage of devotee association. Powerful. I really would like to meditate on that. That's a beautiful point, Mother. Thank you so much for giving that answer. And thank you, Prema Manjari Mataji, for asking that question, because I'm sure we all were like, whoa. I know I was. So thank you. I learned something new. Thank you so much. Any other questions from devotees? Any thoughts? Any reflections? Any realizations? And if there isn't, we thank you all for joining us, and we thank you, Mother Gita, for such a really deep, wonderful class. Vanchakrapuribhyascha, Kripasindhubevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Have a wonderful day. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.